AskReddit by Hussein. What is a good weakness to mention on a job interview? What is your greatest weakness? Probably that I have no strengths. Those big, blue eyes of yours. I have a hard time saying no. But you just did. If you are changing industries, your biggest weakness is not knowing the industry yet. If you are younger, say inexperience. Anything to show your willingness to learn and develop. I got my current job after I said this. The interviewer asked me if I had any questions or concerns about the position. I said, I'm a quick and eager learner, but I'll be honest, I have absolutely no experience in this industry, so training me will need to be from the ground up. Will that be an issue? For my current job, I said that I had a hard time sharing my ideas with new groups. You idea hogger 18. I'm terrible at interviews. I'm bad at interviews. I guess I don't do them very often. I have typically stayed at previous jobs for a long time. Deleted. You have a great wife there. Edit. Thank you for popping my silver cherry, kind stranger. Actual weakness. Taking on jobs by myself, not taking time to train other people to do them. In the end, I'm usually the guy and find myself feeling burnt out. Probably could be worded better at an interview, but this could sound like you're a go-getter. It might also encourage your employer to find opportunities for you to train other people to do things you particularly don't like doing. Training people is a lot of work with little reward, and if things go south you can get shit on you didn't train them on this. I got burnt out training because you work hard to train them and they end up being flakes and not listening or listening to the wrong person. In my head I am like, that's not how it's done. I also don't like bombarding new hires with info, so I get tight-lipped when someone that has been working for a while says something incorrect. It's rough. I work in healthcare and always say not speaking Spanish, and odds are the interviewer is also not fluent in Spanish, so it comes across as not really a weakness. Win-win. I've heard this is the best answer, and to follow it up with something like, but I'm still trying to improve that language. Weak against fire and sharp objects. Underrated comment. We'd make pretty bad Pokemon, weak to fire, water, electricity, grass, ice, rocks, the ground, steel, fighting, poison, flying, falling. If dragons, fairies, ghosts and psychics existed, we'd probably be weak to them too. Some people are even additionally weak to bugs and the dark. There's nothing that we're actually good at. Depends on the position, but I will sometimes say that I have trouble delegating when I know I can perform a task well. I'd rather just do it myself and know that everything will be done correctly. Edit. Thank you for the various precious metals. I realize this advice can backfire. That's why I said sometimes. There is also a way to phrase this that makes you sound better. I'm the same way. I'd be afraid to say this in an interview though, because it could be interpreted as not a team player. I wouldn't say I'm not a team player, but I do have a hard time working with a lazy team that does shitty work. I hate this interview question. I interview candidates every few months. This is a totally useless question. The field I interview for usually has passionate people, so instead I ask, of all the aspects of doing job, which part of the process do you enjoy the most? Nobody is nervous about this question. Gives me some insight into what they want to be working on, where they think they are strongest, and what would make them happy and productive vs bored. I once got a job partly because of my honest answer to this. I need to know why I am doing what I'm doing. I don't like being told to do something without an end game in mind, without knowing the reasoning behind it. When I work, I need something to aim at. Some employers don't like this because they like their employees to be cogs in a machine they control. I don't like those jobs and I don't want them. The place I was applying to was not that kind of workplace, and they liked my answer. Ended up being a great job where my boss valued my input and trusted me to take the reins on a variety of tasks. Edit. Up. Wow. Thanks for the gold and silver. RIP my inbox. This is me. I'll help my husband with projects in the garage, working on the car, building things, etc. And I always want to know why or how we're doing it. It drives him crazy because he doesn't want to stop work to explain it. He was in the army and trained to just do what he was told without question, but I can't function like that. I can't mindlessly do something without knowing what its purpose is. Being vague. Can you elaborate? Yeah. Edit. Wow, was having a not so cool day but got here to see I got my first gold. Thanks, stranger. Now to figure out what it does. Probably. Terrible handwriting is my biggest weakness. How so? You'll never know what I wrote down. It looks like a blind man wrote. Edit, and thank you everyone who wished me a happy cake day. I keep replying and whatnot but I'm about to go to work. So here is one big thank you. Also thanks for making it feel like I'm not alone on the bad handwriting thing. I've always been embarrassed about it but I appreciate you all with horrid handwriting. I don't feel so alone. This is mine. And X200B. I have the penmanship of a doctor, and clearly this isn't a hospital. I was asked this during an interview with Uber and I was completely caught off guard. I ended up fumbling and saying something along the lines of I cannot ride a unicycle, for which I immediately regretted. I would have burst out laughing at that if I was interviewing you. Random off topic. But I once had an interviewer ask me if you were an item on the salad bar, what would you be and why? Which I replied shredded cheese, because I'm full fat and straight off the block. They absolutely loved the answer and thought I was a quick thinker. But alas, I'm just frequently thinking about cheese. My biggest weakness is that sometimes in interviews, I have absolutely no idea how to answer some of the questions. Edit, thanks for popping my gold cherry, stranger. What is your biggest weakness? Interpreting the semantics of a question while ignoring the pragmatics. Could you give an example? Yes. Deleted. You got XMA? As someone who interviews hundreds of people each year, this question stumps almost every person asked. The worst responses are, I have trouble being on time, I'm argumentative, I don't get along with. I also don't think disguising strengths as weaknesses is a good idea either. The best response I think I have heard, besides not being able to ride a unicycle, is, I make mistakes, but I am only a human. I am sure I will make some mistakes along the way learning the ins and outs of this position, but as soon as I know I made a mistake, I try to fix it immediately and make sure it doesn't happen again. Just my 2 cents. It stumped me because I thought my interviewer was joking. I had worked with him for years but not for him and didn't expect such a cliche question. I eventually gave a long list of brutally honest weaknesses, including I don't like being told what to do. I got the job and am now interviewing others for the first time in my life, but I still cringe at some of my answers. One of my actual weaknesses, when I get nervous excited, I tend to speak really fast and breathlessly. This can actually have a negative influence on my job as I work in healthcare and have to communicate during emergencies. And X200B. For my next interview, I will bring this up and say I have discovered that taking a second to collect myself and take a deep breath seems to calm my nerves and allow me to say what is needed in a more collected manner. My weakness is I can get too focused on a task trying to perfect it, and waste time trying to get a 96 to a 97 when 90 is acceptable. On the blueprints we get they say there is a plus minus tolerance of 3mm for my measurements. That is way too huge, and I insist on trying to get it down to at least 1mm. I often say something similar, like I get too focused on one particular problem, and sometimes have to just step back and leave it be for a while. Money. I'll work much harder if you pay me more. Asbestos. If you or a relative has been diagnosed with mesothelioma. Deleted. Honesty. I don't think honesty is a weakness. I don't give a fuck what you think. I need to say this in an interview before I die. In my most recent interview, got the job, I answered I don't like to stay late, I'll come in half an hour early at the drop of a hat, but if you tell me I'm off at 4 and then work conspires to try to keep me longer, I will not be staying. Work stops at 4, period. Depending on the job and culture, this can break your chances of getting the job, but pretty much anyone can sympathize with not wanting to stay later, and it doesn't come off as one of those smart ass I'm a perfectionist answers. It also tells them that you probably won't be racking up that expensive overtime. This won't fly if it's a salary job with no overtime pay. If you are a shy, quiet person like myself, mention it. I let them know upfront that I am a naturally quiet person, especially around new people, and it sometimes comes off the wrong way. People tend to think I am in a bad mood, or have a rude personality, or just don't like them. Then when they get to know me they do a 180. So I let them know from the beginning that I am quiet, but it doesn't mean I'm in a bad mood or don't like them or anything. I just don't talk much until I get to know people. I printed out a card that says sometimes I over-prepare and handed it to them when they asked it. I got the job. But did you laminate it? I have absolutely no patience for office politics, conspiracies, bullying, micromanagement, or corporate cheerleading. I want to work somewhere friendly and open and fair, where I can treat colleagues as equals and be pretty much left to do my job in return. I can do it extremely well. My big dick is always getting caught on things and knocking things. So dishonesty is your biggest weakness? Deleted. It's not a quote from The Office, but it kinda sounds like one. I like it. Deleted. Now spin it in a positive way to really impress. I shit in urinals, but I'm working on doing that less. Bingo, job gotten. I'm not sure, let me check Stack Overflow real quick.